Lyssavirus, or better known as rabies, is arguably one of the deadliest and scariest viruses out there. But why? Most diseases were feared in the past because not much was known about them and how they transmitted or how to cure them. Rabies is no exception to this, of course. However, fear was also spread due to the virus's images. Think about it. What do you first imagine when you think of rabies? Is it a dog? How about a raccoon or even a fox? And I would bet that they are also foaming at the mouth with their teeth bared. The fact that it can be in nearly all the wildlife you encounter in your life is scary enough. To also affect domesticated animals such as your own pets makes it scarier. So what exactly is rabies? How does rabies infect? Who does it infect? And most importantly, how can you protect yourself? In simple terms, rabies is a single-stranded RNA virus that belongs in the Rabioviridae family, the rabio meaning rod in Greek. Like all viruses, it's too small to see with any regular microscope. An electron microscope is mandatory to see this tiny 60 by 180 nanometer virus. You'd think that rabies would have an extremely complex structure given how much destruction it can cause, but nope, it only has 5 proteins that make it up. These have more scientific and complex names as shown currently, however only one will be important to us currently. The G protein, or in fancy terms, glycoprotein, is what makes up the virus's spikes. Rabies also has an envelope surrounding it, which in addition to the spikes makes it easier to infect its target cells. The easiest way to remember rabies shape is that it's bullet-shaped. How does that make it easier? Well, unfortunately, it's because like a bullet, if you get hit by it, you're usually dead, but there are ways to lower your risk that we'll get into later. All mammals can contract rabies. This means humans, cats, rabbits, and even kangaroos can contract and spread rabies, though thankfully you wouldn't see a rabid kangaroo under normal circumstances. Thank goodness, kangaroos are likely the last animal you want to encounter the rabid form of. Australia doesn't have any rabies according to health.gov.au, the Australian official health website. However, the bats there can carry other Rabioviridae viruses similar to rabies. There was one thing that bothered me. Why only mammals? I scanned through many articles to try and find an answer, but nothing from a reliable source that could back it up. So I did try to ask someone to help me research, but the only 2 conclusions we came up with had their issues. Either it's because they're cold-blooded and the temperature difference is not ideal for the rabies virus, or it's because mammals have a certain protein that rabies need to bind to. If anyone has an answer with an article for me to read more into it, I'd greatly appreciate it. Anyway, unlike some other viruses, it doesn't infect certain humans more than others, that is, on a biological standpoint. Children are unfortunately more susceptible due to their higher likelihood that they get bitten by a dog or another animal. Rabies is usually transmitted by a bite from an animal. However, there are other ways the virus can spread. Specifically, it's direct contact with the saliva or brain nervous system tissue that can cause rabies to spread. Any open wounds or mucous membranes such as your eyes, nose, or mouth that come into contact with the saliva or tissue that could cause transmission of rabies. There are non-bite saliva exposures that can still cause infection though. These can be scratches or other open wounds caused by a rabid animal, usually bats. Simply touching or petting a rabid mammal will not cause the virus to spread. Even more rare ways are possible though, none of which are much of a concern. One of which is through air, but don't worry, only the people that encounter an aerosol rabies is scientists and laboratory workers that know how to keep themselves safe. The other is through organ donors. If someone had exposure to rabies, then donated an organ, the recipient could also get rabies too. Thankfully, this is extremely rare. In fact, only 2 known cases of organ donors carrying the virus has happened in the US since 2008. In terms of human-to-human contagiousness, no incidence of a human biting another human or spreading it through saliva has been reported, but in theory would be possible. It could take a while until any symptoms of Lyssavirus can appear, sometimes as quickly, around a week. However, it can take much longer, up to a year. Typically, it would be around 2 to 3 months until symptoms appear. It just depends on how far away from the brain the exposure was for how long symptoms will take to show, since the body system rabies infects as a central nervous system. Whenever it reaches the brainstem, early symptoms include a painful or spiky sensation at the bite or scratch, fever, headaches, or dizziness. As the virus progresses, anxiety, aggression, and confusion start to occur. These psychological problems worsen and lead to hallucinations, insomnia, and a fear of water, also known as hydrophobia. Hydrophobia happens because of the throat spasms that can happen whenever a rabid animal or person tries to drink water. This leads to intense fear of water in general. Unfortunately, when symptoms appear, the fatality rate is nearly 100%. These symptoms will last for around a week or two. Then after, the infected can slip into comas and organs can start to shut down. There are still things unknown about the virus. It is believed that how Lyssavirus causes brain dysfunction and death is messing up communication with the neurons it affects. Unlike most viruses, rabies does not destroy its host cell whenever it's done replicating, despite being a lytic cell virus. This is why many that are infected have little to no brain damage. Treatment is very limited. Once someone shows symptoms, the best doctors can do is give a medically induced coma and give the patient antivirals. This treatment is called the Milwaukee Protocol, and few cases are documented where it was used. So how worried should you be of rabies? Not much. Only 1 to 3 cases of rabies happens annually in the United States because prevention is easier. There is a rabies vaccine, both for people and pets. And since the virus is slower at infecting, the vaccine is still effective even after exposure, so long as you don't have symptoms. To avoid exposure, any animal you don't know or is acting strangely, stay away from. If there is any biting, scratching, or saliva contact on an open wound, seek medical attention immediately to see if you need the rabies vaccine. Thank you all for watching my project. I hope to have another project like this one again.